Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ale, short for Alejandra. Thank you for being here and sharing your time with me. I really appreciate it. Today I wanted to do something a little bit different, but something that I've been thinking about for quite a while because I just love the idea of it. And it's essentially like a week at my desk so that you can see all of the different moments in a week that I filmed, at least, that I spend time at my desk or with my notebooks in some way, because every day does not look the same. Sometimes I have a lot of time, sometimes I only have a minute or two, and some days I don't make it to my desk at all. So I thought this would be a cute little opportunity to share those glimpses with you and just do a little voiceover, because I oftentimes will listen to shows or music while I'm journaling, or there's just a lot of ambient noise in my home, and it doesn't always make for optimal recording. So I thought a voiceover could be a nice idea. We started quite big on Monday. I think this may have been my most exciting desk day this week, and that was because I didn't need this. It was pure, like I saw it at the store and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm afraid I can't pass this up. And it's this wooden pocket palette. And look at it. Once I eventually move the palette, I'm observing from your view, but below it is a new wooden palette, and I was so excited to put in my watercolors into it. And then I was making the deliberate decision, which is why I'm doing all this pondering here, about the fact that I wanted to choose different colors from my current pocket palette, just so that it at least feels like they're serving some sort of different purpose. Mind you, there are some overlap in colors because I don't have that many watercolor tubes, but I did kind of want to make some form of an effort to make them different. So depending on what it is that I wanted to tackle or the colors that I needed, I knew that one palette had one thing and then the other palette had another thing. But really all of this is me trying to find an excuse to own more pocket palettes, because as I explained in my previous video, and I do stand by that, the Winsor and Newton palette that I have, and it has like 13 colors, I think, and it's just it's like the beginner palette that most people recommend to start with, is the best, is the greatest, and you don't need any more than that. But I've just been so enamored by watercoloring, and I find the whole process like a beautiful hobby. And it's just something that I'm really romanticizing at the moment, and seemingly romanticizing it enough where I'm willing to spend money on more cute palettes that no one needs, but most of us may want. So yeah, it was super fun to take the time to set them all in their pan and choose the colors, and then afterwards I had to use a little pokey stick to try and get rid of the bubbles, which now that I'm looking at the palette all dry, I could have done a better job, because there were definitely a lot of air bubbles still in the palette, but it doesn't matter. We're not striving for perfection, because if we were, I fear I would highly disappoint myself. This was pure joy, a pure splurge, and I am so thrilled about it. I bought it at a art shop, in case anyone's wondering, in my city. It's called Opus Art. I believe there's different locations in Canada. They have an online website if you're interested. although I think they're not the original creators of the wooden palette. From my understanding, the originators of the wooden palette, this design, I guess, is called Go Draw, I think, but they're quite hard to get your hands on, and I think they're somewhere in Asia, like Southeast Asia, if I'm not mistaken. So getting that to come all the way to Canada is kind of an insane task. So I really just stumbled across this when I was trying to buy one specific thing, and naturally I did not just leave the art store with one thing. I left with a few, and this palette was one of them. So anyway, that's all I did on Monday in terms of journaling. I just played with paint. Okay, this day was Tuesday, and I had a bit more time on Tuesday to do some journaling. And I started off, this was a bit later in the night. I actually think most of the days that I journaled this week, except for on the weekend, typically tend to be at night. So I lit my little candles to get into the mood for a little journaling session. And what I really wanted to tackle was some of my diary pages. So not my week spread where I just do like little snippets of each day, but the notebook insert where I actually can delve a little deeper into certain days, certain topics, certain feelings, especially as we're approaching the end of the first 6 months of the year and I'm going to swap into a new insert. I've been quite determined to make sure all of these pending pages have been dealt with and fully written in. I'll be doing, as I promised before, a full flip through of what I did during these last 6 months in both of my inserts. But for today, I just wanted to focus on doing some backlogging that I've been putting off. And the main one at hand was my full spread for our upcoming London trip that was confirmed a couple weeks ago. And I actually ended up deciding that I wanted to do, essentially on one side of the page was a book dedicated to Vivian Gornig's memoir that I read, which is called The Odd Woman and the City, simply because it talks a lot about your sense of belonging in a busy city and how much attachment we can form from that, and how you can be alone in a city, but you're never actually alone because there's so many people around you. And in fact, there was a quote in the book, which I ended up printing and underlining in the notebook, which says, "When a man is bored of London, he is tired of life." And is that what it says? Wait, I think so. Yeah, something along those lines. I'm trying to read it through the screen as I narrate this. But anyway, it just felt obviously very on theme because I love London. I honestly should go back into my videos and see if I managed to say that in every single one of them. I probably do. Anyway, I just thought it would create kind of a nice bridge between topics. It's like a book that I read that was really applicable to a thing that is going to happen a couple of months down the road. So that was very satisfying to write about. And then, yeah, I just had some thoughts about the fact that I feel so immensely grateful to be able to travel, to return to a city that I love, to return to that city for my birthday. There's just so many things about it that I feel grateful for, even though, if I'm being honest, whenever I purchase a flight or, a trip is confirmed, it never really feels real. And I think that's probably a normal sensation for a lot of people. I think it's until I'm on the plane or I've landed in the city that I'm going to that I'm like, oh, okay, this is happening. But it was very nice to do a proper spread for this event because it feels quite significant. So I wanted to make sure that there was more than just like 2 or 3 sentences saying that I'm going to London, because this is a huge deal for me and it's probably going to be like the biggest plans of my summer. So it very much deserved its entire spread. And I was able to print, as you can see, "You're on your way to London." I was able to print that up from the email that they sent me. And I used a transfer sticker. That's what the little hand is pointing. And then the stamp at the top is a little suitcase. And you can't see it from this far away, but if you were to look up close, one of the, I guess, patches, essentially is what that is on the stamp, is a London patch. So that also felt like the perfect stamp to use. And yeah, just finished my thoughts on that. And I think overall it looks really nice. It's very like minimally colored, like everything is kind of black and white or gray tones, and it's just a satisfying spread, I think. So once that was done, I felt pretty satisfied. There's another page in this notebook that I've been putting off for quite a while, but I simply can't bring myself to write about it, not even because it's negative or it's anything heavy, really. In fact, it was some really joyful days. I'm about to get to it right now. Yeah, these here. It was when my best friend and her partner were over, and I printed a lot of fun photos, but I just haven't had the gumption to go back and write in those pages. So that's a task for another time. And by this point, it was definitely my bedtime. So I closed her up and blew my little candles and went to bed. And we will be at it again tomorrow. So I will see you in that next clip. Another day, another desk day. I spent some time at my desk after work. I believe this was Thursday. I didn't actually spend any time at my desk on Wednesday because I had tennis plans with my friend, and I ended up going early so that I could sit at a park and do some painting at the park. So no desk time on Wednesday, so nothing was recorded. There is no evidence. I could be lying and you'd never know. But yeah, I wanted to do some planning. My planning, I have a whole video on how I use my passport traveler's notebook. My planning is quite simple because none of my work information is in this planner. I have an entire digital system for that, not necessarily because it's the one I've chosen. It's just the one that my company uses, so it's the one I go with. What I was showing here is that I use that stencil, specifically the circle stencil, and my red Muji pen to circle the days that I have important birthdays I need to remember. But I had already done all the July ones, so I didn't have to do that. But as you can see there on the side margin, I'll write, let's say, the 13th is my friend Hannah's birthday, so I'll write 13th is Han, and then, the next date, and then the person's birthday, and then the next date and the person's birthday, so I can remember. And I just find that visually very easy to look at and keep track of, because I am the type of person that loves birthdays, and whenever I forget someone's birthday, I just feel horrible. So I try to avoid that feeling at all costs. I also wanted to make sure I had properly accounted for any upcoming visits that we're having, and making sure that I can wash the guest room sheets, because I am very particular about those kinds of things. So we had a friend visiting us, two friends actually, that visited us this past week. So I wanted to make sure I had that marked. My dad's coming in 2 weeks, so I just wanted to make sure everything was written down properly. I also bought these new stickers that I prefer their size, just because these notebooks, the passport notebooks, can be so small that the dots that I have are just they take up too much space in the calendar view. So these are significantly smaller, and I'll be able to use them without losing absolutely all writing space. And yeah, that was all I had to do in terms of planning. Like I said, it's never really anything crazy. It's just more so that I make sure I'm not double booking myself. I can stay on top of people's birthdays, any visits that we're having, any plans that I've confirmed on. And really mainly, the thing I love most about that notebook is my tiny notes on the go. So yeah, that was it. Another day at the desk completed. Okay, this here, in my personal opinion, is very exciting, and also was done in parts. I think this was done for like 5 minutes on one day, and then I had to revisit because, again, we had guests over, so my desk time was quite limited. But essentially, I've been creating, like, in my final spread of my weekly insert, which again, I will show in detail, I wanted to create this page where I did my monthly highlights, and that included like my favorite pieces of clothing that I wore these past 6 months. And that has been such a fun thing to do. I've essentially been taking photos of those pieces and then creating stickers out of them and then putting them into my Procreate and then printing them out and gluing them into my notebook. This is kind of a little cheeky sneak peek of that. So as you can see on the right hand side, I've done actual products that I've used to death these past 6 months, and I put little arrows in case I wanted to write down the shade of the lip gloss or the scent of the perfume, things like that. And then on the left side are my clothing favorites. I have another spread that I'm working on that I'm super excited about, but I won't show that until the other videos because it'll be like the full product. But yeah, it was so fun to kind of reflect back on the clothes that I think I've worn the most, and even looking at them here on the screen, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. These are definitely things I have worn constantly, and I plan to continue to wear them constantly. I'm obsessed, and when I look at it too, I'm like, oh, I've definitely been leaning towards a more masculine look, you know, like, I mean, I always wear like huge clothing, to be honest, like oversized clothing, and then maybe some pieces are form-fitting, but overall, I really do like the voluminous silhouette, and I have been loving red, like pops of red in my outfit, whereas usually it's like quite neutral. Anyway, the last thing I tackled this week, which is very exciting, and I won't be sharing it in its entirety because, again, it's all gonna come to you in a full video real soon. But that was the final week of June that's gonna be in this Traveler's Notebook insert before I switch into my new one. And I feel bittersweet, I guess, let's say, for drama's sake, in the sense that I've spent 6 dedicated months in this insert, filling it in every single day consistently for 6 weeks. I have not missed a single spot in this little notebook, and there are so many memories attached to it, so many words I have put in here. I did, which I've mentioned before, but I did a guest book at the beginning of this insert, so many people I care about have written in that first page, and I'm making it sound like I'm getting rid of this notebook. I'm obviously not. I will archive it and treasure it always and revisit it whenever I want to. But if it does feel, yeah, there's just like a little squirmy feeling where you're just parting from something that has been with you for so long. And now it's not like I'll see it every day. In order to see it, I'll have to go to like my archived notebooks and look at it instead of it being inside of my notebook and having it all of the time whenever I go to use my traveler's notebook. Anyway, it's obviously very exciting to go into the new one, but I have really poured all my love into this insert, and I'm really, really so grateful that this system continues to work for me as well as it does. And I know that I've really put in the time and effort in order to make it work for me, but I'm just very grateful that it works as well as it does for me. And it gives me so much serotonin. Like, I can't even really explain it. I just feel like I've cracked the code, and I've cracked the code for myself. We all have our own codes, but for me, this is just perfection. And I have used like every single page. There is not a blank page, because last year was my first time using this particular insert, and I felt like there were some empty pages at the end, some empty pages at the beginning. But no, ma'am, this year every single page is used up, and I'm so excited. Anyway, I promise I will show you that in detail in the next video. But yeah, that's it. That's a week at my desk for the most part. I hope that was fun to watch, and I will see you very soon. Very, very soon. But for the sake of my little outro that I always say, thank you so much for being here and sharing your time with me. I really, really appreciate it. And I will see you when I see you. Bye. Mwah.